Hi and welcome again. So in this video I'm going to be basically doing a couple of functions that are useful in your curriculum. So the first function that I'm going to do is basically a function that, given an array of integers, it will compute the sum of all the integers inside that array and it returns that sum. So I really suggest that you try on this problem on your own, and then when you're happy about your solution, you unpause the video and see how I did it. So okay, I'm back. Basically what we want to do is, as I mentioned, we want to create a function that takes an array as a parameter, and it takes the size of the array also as a parameter, and it will return the sum of all the integers inside that array. Okay? So the function will be of type integer, since it will return an integer. And I'm going to call it sum. And it takes an array of integers. And it takes the size of that array. So I'm going to call the size n. And notice here I didn't put the size of the array, because when you pass an array to a function, you can skip that size thing. Okay, you can pass it without giving a size, since we're sending the size here as an integer. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a variable called s, which will contain the sum that we will return. That s will initially contain the value 0. And then I'm going to iterate, I'm going to loop through the entire array and add them value by value into s, and then return s back to us. So let's declare an iterator, integer I, and then for I starts from 0, while I is less than n, we keep incrementing I. And every time we add to s the r of I. So every time we take the value at index I and we add that value to our sum variable s. And then finally, once we're done doing that loop, we are going to return that variable s. Now let's test our function, whether it works or not. So the first thing I'm going to do here in the main program, I'm going to create a variable array. Well, it doesn't have to be the same name as the name that I gave to the function, but you got it. So the array will be of size, say 10, and I'm going to initialize it with a bunch of values, just random values. And then I'm going to declare s, which has the sum of that array, and we give it the size. So how many elements do we have? 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 elements. And then finally we print that s. And as you can see, that's 2,819. Now let's choose some easier numbers to verify that we did it correctly. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that should give us 5 plus 4, that's 9, plus 3, that's 12, 12 plus 2, that's 14, so that's 15. And here we have 5 numbers. And let's see. And there you go. That's the correct answer. Now, one thing I want to add to this program is I want the user to be the one who will put in numbers into this array. So I'm going to extend the size to be 100. And then I'm going to remove those initialization. And then I'm going to read numbers from the user, okay? So I'm going to do a for loop, or maybe I'm going to do it in a function. So I'm going to create a function that will take the input from the user. So I'm going to call it get input, get, or let's make it type integer, get input. And I'm going to give it an array. And that function will get the input from the user, fill that array with the input of the user, and then return the size of the user back to us. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to declare a variable called n, which will contain the size of the array, and I'm going to get that from the user. So I'm going to printf give, or let's say type in the size of the array. And then I'm going to scanf. I'm going to scanf that n, so I give it the address of n. And then for I starts from 0, I less than n, I plus plus, every time I tell the user type in r of that element, r of I, and the user will give us an integer, which is basically the address of that element, so r of I. Okay, so we ask the user type in array of I, and then we take array of I from the user. And then finally we return n as a result. Now here in the main program, we basically declare the array, and then we call the get input function. We give it the array, and then we store the size of the array inside the variable n, which is the result of the function. And then we call the sum function, we give it the array name, and then the size of the array, and we store the sum into s, and then finally we print s. So the sum is, that's it. Now let's test this program, and it asks us to type in the size of the array, say 5, and I'm going to test the exact same input. Oh, there's an error there, so what is the error? Oh yeah, here we're saying type in array of I, and then we're not supplying that I there. So let's run again and type in the size of the array, 5. And now it says type in array of 0, array of 0, 1, type in array of 1, 2, type in array of 2, say 7, array of 3, say 9, say 4, and the sum is 23. So 4 plus 9 plus 7 plus 2 plus 1 is 23. And the program works pretty as we expected. So see you in the next video where we're gonna do some other problems. So stay tuned and see you in the next video.